I am currently leveling a mage for upcoming content. And yeah, I guess that's a spoiler, so consider subscribing if you've been waiting for mage content. But while trying out one of the most recommended spawns, the Stone Refiners, I noticed something that is pretty clear to me as an experienced player, but I can see how it will not be the case for others. So I'm making this video to explain something that might be making your experience lower. Not just here, but pretty much anywhere. And hopefully this video will help you notice it. And this is about overkilling. So first off, let's start with a clarification. In other games, this will be doing more damage than necessary for a kill, but in Tibia, this is used to refer to the killing of monsters faster that they can respawn. Basically, when you're doing a lap in a respawn and get back to the start and the pool is not there or missing creatures. For the most part, this can be blamed on overkilling, but it can happen for a few reasons. The first one will be that your character is too strong for the spawn. This is the most common one, and it could be from levels or skills or too many people for the spawn. And it is technically a way to balance the game so that high levels can overstay their time in a lower level spawn. Another one, which is less common, is that the respawn rate is lower. This is mostly a mechanic of the past and it happens in all spawns, but also in free account areas the most. In my first video for Frost Dragons of Falconer, I could tell that this was way slower respawn than anything else. And keep in mind, this spawn was originally added on 2007, and the game was played differently back then, mostly hunting one by one, and it wasn't that apparent. The third one, which is actually quite common and possibly the one that lowers the XP the most, is the respawning points. Tibia is designed in a way that creatures have a designated square to respawn on, but this square can work differently, and there is no particular guideline for this. It is part of their map editor, and depending on how the design spawned or who did it, it might end up being differently. So let's take a run in any given spawn where there is 8 creatures. That doesn't necessarily mean there will be 8 respawning points, although it definitely is possible in some spawns. But in fact, I will say it's more common to have 4 respawn points for 2 creatures each, or 2 respawn points for 4 creatures, and so on. And if multiple creatures share a respawn, and it takes for the sake of this argument 30 seconds to respawn, then upon the creatures dying, it will take 30 seconds for the first to respawn, and then the next 30 seconds begin for the second creature, and so on. So depending on the size of the spawn, it might never be an issue because by the time you do the lap, it's been long enough for all creatures to respawn. But sometimes it's not, and that's why I thought of making this video. First off, the simplest way to notice when this is becoming an issue is your experience. And I admit it's not the most reliable source because there is other variables that can affect your XP at any given moment, but it is a good indicator to start. This requires you have hunted the spawn before, or at least been here for a bit, and you have a good idea of a baseline to compare the XP you're making. So for example, if you are able to do 2kk raw experience normally, but now is sitting at 1.8kk, this could be signs of overkilling. Another one that is far more obvious is when you start getting blue teleports while doing a pull. These blue teleports are the indicator of a creature respawning, and if you are already there and see it, then it's clear you are overkilling. But sometimes it's not too big of a deal yet, and you can keep hunting the same way. It depends on the amount of creatures you're killing already. Let's say a pool with 12 creatures and you get there and it has 10. While you're doing a box of 8, the others are respawning and you still are able to kill the 12 by the end. Then it's not much of an issue. But because respawn points have yet another mechanic to them, which is that some of them won't trigger if there is a player in the screen, then you might not even get to see the blue teleports while overkilling. This is way more common than I originally thought. While recording background footage for this video, most of what I tried ended up not respawning if I was there. Keep in mind that if the respawn point is right outside of my screen, the creature can still respawn and will likely walk into the screen to attack me. And if you want to see the creatures respawn, you must be on a different floor. So take this deepling part as an example. I'm watching 2 different floors respawn creatures, but the one I'm standing on doesn't respawn anything. So to deal with this, you should try and memorize the amount of creatures per pool. If a room has 6 or 8 creatures and you are constantly killing less than that, then you are overkilling. I understand this is harder to notice, especially in high density spawns, but knowing all of these patterns together will help you notice it. So with that said, now you know, and what do you do about it? This is where the Storm Refiner's Hunt comes in as an example. I came with a level 37 but high magic level in imbuements, and I noticed that I was overkilling the spawn by hunting with avalanches, and my experience peaked at 250k raw, but on average it was around the 240k. Then what I did to improve the hunt to a peak of 300k and on average 280k was to include the floor above. I didn't see other guys mention this, because to be fair, the floor above only has tarantulas and bats, so it doesn't feel like it will be worth killing at all. But if you just focus on the experience or the feeling of doing these pulls, you're doing it wrong. The goal with adding this floor is to give time for the stone refiners to respawn, which are the ones you care about. and then by the time I go back downstairs, there will be more stone refiners per pool, hence increasing the experience. In simpler terms, you want to include more pools, and most of the times they will be worse, because there is a reason that they were avoided to begin with, or the guy you watched didn't include them. Most guys in Tibia are optimized, but often fall short due to the character's limitations. Perhaps it's not a strong one, and overkilling is not an issue, or sometimes it's too strong and they don't notice it. For the most part, in almost every spawn in the game, you will end up hunting a smaller part of it, or a shorter lap because it's the most efficient for experience, but eventually you will reach the point of overkilling, and that's when you need to adapt the lap to fix this. Take for example the Asylum Catacombs, which is where I am currently team hunting. If you look at the map of it, it's massive in size and it comes with 3 floors, and you could think that's enough to fit in 3 teams, but that's wrong. With my team's strength, if we stay on just one floor, we will overkill it, and we're forced to take another floor in order to maintain or slightly increase the experience. And if this wasn't the case, which at least after the Winter Solstice event and the increased respawn rate it comes with it, we were able to stay in just -3, and our experience back then was the highest we got in at the time, to around the 16kk raw. And without the faster respawn, if we were to just stay on -3, we will be making around 13 to 14kk. So we include pools in -2 to maintain the experience, and we do around the 16kk now. And I know there are exceptions where there is not more floors to include, and most of the times it's not necessary to go that far. Simply adding 1 or 2 pools you were ignoring before will fix the overkill, but at the cost of a slightly less experience. That is unavoidable because it's part of the game design, but sometimes you might end up coming with a better lap and higher experience. However, it's better to forget about what the peak experience is and trade it for a lower and more stable average. And sometimes it will require thinking outside the box. For example, recently the Ogres of Isabi got buffed decently, allegedly, and I went for a test hunt as a solo EK because it's a bestiary I'm missing, but I was overkilling the spawn by myself, so what I did will seem very impractical and weird. But after clearing the mountainside, I will run all the way to the other side and clear the ogres that are part of the regular Isabi surface. This was easily 30 seconds or more running from one spawn to the other, and even with that downtime in between, I was able to kill over 100 more ogres per hour. Which by the way, I don't recommend. I just do this kind of tests for content ideas and most of the times it's not worth the time. But my point still stands. If there is no other floors or more pools to include, perhaps it will require a different approach, like the Asura Mirror. Once you reach overkill with a team, it's often enough to include 2 pools in the Asura Palace to maintain XP. In the case of Dark Tutors of Inquisition, I can reach overkill on that respawn very easily, and then I can include the Plaguesmiths and Destroyers on the teleport, or a few pools in any of the other teleports like in the Crystal Caves. Just be aware of this, because it affects solo and team hunts of all levels. You will always run into it at some point the stronger and better you get. And that's all I got for this video. If you found it helpful, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one.